I want to welcome all of you to this Lunch Bytes Zoom for the Classroom Part 1. If you haven't already done so, would you please find the chat and type your name so that we know that you were here. I also want to let you know that Maggie is recording this Lunch Bytes session today. So just so you are all aware of that, that recording has already been turned on. Maggie is going to be presenting today, and I will be monitoring the chat. So at any point during this session, feel free to put a question in the chat. We will also have some time at the end for you to share some things that you have found, that you have discovered already this spring, and then another set of time for you to ask some questions. So I don't want to take any more time away from Maggie, so I will turn it over to Maggie. And again, thank you all for being here, and please find the chat if you haven't already.
Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen. Maybe. Hold on one second. There we go, maybe. Can you guys see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Okay, so first things first, I'm trying to figure out how to get you guys to where I can see my PowerPoint and the participants window. There we go. This is trial and error for me as well. Nothing like doing a training for the first time, just like you guys have done your teaching for the first time. Anyway, this is going to be kind of an overview of what Marie went over back in March, but maybe kind of diving a little more into it, giving us more options, and also giving you guys a chance to tell us what you've been doing that may be different than what I'm going to show you today. The first thing is student expectations. We're going to treat the Zoom room just like we would treat a classroom. So you're still going to take attendance the same way in myNeosho as you would with the face-to-face classroom on campus. But in Zoom, you're going to have to set the expectation for your students to tell them, like, sign in the chat just like we do here, or make sure your video is on you the entire time. If your video is not on the entire time, you're not attending the class. The feature for raising your hand and stuff like that, you know, if they have any questions, you need to make sure they know you're either turning off or unmuting yourself, or you're going to raise your hand before you ask a question. These are all things we have to make sure we lay out before we get into the semester. So just like we do at the beginning of every semester when we go into our classroom, our first class is usually our expectations, going over the syllabi, and kind of laying out the semester. So when we're doing it in a Zoom classroom, we're going to have to tell them the new expectations, and we just kind of wanted to make sure, we know that you guys know that, but we just want to make sure we know the little details that we can share with our students to make sure they know how to do that and what it looks like for you. So this lovely little lady right here raised her hand, and so on her image in my classroom, we're going to see that she's got her hand raised, and we're also going to see it in the participants list. That's one way that we can have the students raise their hands or tell you that they want to talk, other than the chat box itself or just unmuting. Those are things that we'll want to talk about with the students before classes start, or in that first class session, if that makes sense. Anybody have any questions about that?
Where is the raised hand feature again?
So if you look down at the bottom of your screen, you should see reactions.
Yeah.
If you click on that, it should let you raise your hand. Okay. Any other questions about that? No?
Can we, yeah, so Andrew just raised.
Trying it out.
I was actually just checking to see if it would work. And then do I hit that to lower my hand, or can you do that?
So I can, or you can. So if I click on it, your hand went away. Yep.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
I apologize. I have a question.
Sure.
I can't find the raise my hand up thing. in
Okay.
mine. I just have a clap and a thumbs up.
I don't actually think it's in the reactions area. I believe if you might be able to find it by clicking like on your image and the 3 dots. You might have a raise hand option. Or if you can see the participants, I believe you can raise your hand through the participants. Andrew, how did you raise your hand just a minute ago?
I did it through the participants because I couldn't find it in the reactions, and I don't see it on the 3-button thing, but I was able to get it. It's at the bottom right-hand side of the participants. And I'm sorry for talking with my mouth full here. Sorry.
If you all want to take a minute and try to find that, that's what this session is all about.
Yep.
And I would just also say that this would likely be different for your students who are on an iPad or a tablet or a phone than it is when you're in full computer screen.
Yeah, and when you're the host, it even looks different. So like I don't even have those options. So that's why I'm seeing something completely different than what you guys see. So those are the things that you're going to want to go through with your students beforehand too, just so they're all doing the aha moment like you guys are doing for us. And it will just make your classes move smoother. But you also now know there's reactions, clapping and thumbs up.
I have a question.
Yes.
Maybe more for Marie or whoever. So student expectation that they have their video on. So several times since we've gone this format, I have excuses of why we can't have our videos not working or whatever. How many class periods do we allow them to go with that, or do we? What's our expectation with that?
I will start that, and Dr. Rob is here as well, so she can also comment. We can tell you all of the students that are, if you are teaching for summer, all of the students that are enrolled in a summer class at this point have been notified of the change. And in that email that we sent, we tried to copy instructors on that, but we specifically said you will need a camera and a microphone.
Okay.
So the ones that will enroll from this point forward, of course, will not have received that message. So I think it's up to the instructor to set those expectations.
Okay, so then what? So we've sent I did read the email, but I still am, oh, it's not working today. So do you let them stay in class that period and then expect it to be on next? What's our expectations, instructors?
Yeah, that's a great question. And maybe some of the other faculty want to comment on that. I personally would try to do, not all class, but just, a couple seconds of troubleshooting, like unplug your camera and plug it back in. Because 9 times out of 10, the issues that I have had have been fixed by just a simple unplug of the camera.
Okay.
I'm kind of torn on the whole process, really, because, honestly, for me right now, you can see my entire house in the background. I don't necessarily, I'm not super comfortable with that, but I can't do anything about it because my computer that I'm using from home doesn't have a good enough processor to be able to give the digital background. And so I'm doing it knowing that everybody can see everything. And I think I've been reading a couple of articles on higher ed about how, that kind of exposes some, disparity. It's kind of like a little bit intrusive into the student's life. And so I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, obviously, if you're testing and you have to do it and stuff like that, for sure. But, I think that there's a lot of issues that go along with it. I mean, it's very hard for me to imagine people interacting with just my name, though, too. So I don't know. This seems like it's really, complicated question.
The other problem I have seen is that they have children in the house. And sometimes you get a lot of the kids hanging on, and it's difficult.
Christy, do you want to comment about what the nursing has done or any of the other programs?
We as a nursing faculty came together and set and developed specific Zoom expectations. And we included in those that you have to have your video on at all times, that no one else can be in the room, that family need to be, and we're trying to work around the kids. We understand that. But right now they're on such a limited time that surely, especially for testing, surely someone else can help watch the kids or something. We have had some difficulties. I had one student, and our biggest thing is doing Zoom testing, and her video wasn't working on her laptop, and she wanted to use her phone for Zoom and test on her computer. And I told her she was going to have to borrow another laptop or something to do that, because we have them share their screen so that we can see that no other browsers are open, and all that, and Zoom the room they're testing in. We really have not had a big issue with that. And on our first level on the Ottawa campus, I have 44 students. So it's really not been a big issue. We did have one that was testing on Monday that was he was vaping. And so he had to be told, no, this is class time and you can't smoke. But other than that, we really have not had a lot of issues. But we made very clear Zoom expectations, and we remind them of that often.
I think, like Maggie mentioned at the beginning, you set your expectations on the first day of class in the physical classroom. You have to decide for your own class what your expectations are going to be. But I believe, and I think Dr. Rob is going to talk now, but I believe the college is empowering you to require your students to have their cameras on and on their face if that's what you choose to do.
Yeah, Marie, I didn't mean for you to stop. I just, I was preparing. The college does empower you to do that, of course. But when you make those expectations, when you decide upon the expectations of your class, please also remember to place those expectations in the editable portion of your course syllabus, so that the students have that in documentation as well. So Diane, if you want to follow the procedure of, okay, we'll troubleshoot real quick, see if we can get your camera going, and then if you can't, then okay, get it fixed for next time. I mean, you can have an established layer system in which, at some point there's some sort of consequence. That is 100% up to you. I know that for, to touch on Andrew's point, there is some concern associated with that, and certainly from your students and certainly from all of us, we have concern about what people see in the background. And like Andrew, my laptop at home doesn't allow for the virtual background either, so I completely get it. I get that concern, but in a classroom discussion, I think the feedback that you can receive from people's faces is pretty important. And even though we're all kind of looking at our faces, it's difficult to gain that feedback, even on Zoom. So, I mean, this is the best replication to face-to-face that we can get. So we need to take full advantage of that in a face-to-face virtual classroom, in my opinion. Again, it's 100% up to you. Whatever you're comfortable with is going to be what you put in your syllabus supplement. So just make sure and make those expectations clear, and then please be as consistent as possible.
With regard to the background, would it be possible just to purchase an inexpensive, like triptych exhibit board, display board, and set it up behind you just to block the view so that there's just a plain color board behind you?
That's a great idea, Ruth. Also, in the case of laptops, I mean, the picture that Maggie showed earlier that was half of my face, I was on my iPad, and so I walked to an area where I thought the background would be nice enough to show you all. So laptops and mobile devices, they can actually relocate themselves so they can be right in front of a wall and maybe not have to worry about that. So there are some things that you can try if the virtual background doesn't work. The virtual background is not an option on a tablet or a phone. So that is something for your students. And if you can find Andrew in your participants, he actually has a little circle, so he's limited what you can see around him. So there's another option. You can do that right on the camera. So there are some other options. So,
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Andrew.
Oh, I was just gonna say that, yeah, like I just put up a little, one of those little like $3, $5 lens kits that you have for like your phone that they sell at like the checkout, like as you're checking out of the stores and stuff like that, for your cell phone. Super inexpensive, and it just clips. Literally, I just clipped it right onto my webcam, and so it's supposed to be a macro lens to make me a little bit bigger and kind of close things down around. And so, you know, I mean, that's what I'm using right now. But when I'm trying to use like my full workstation, you know, this is really the only place in my house that I can actually like utilize it. So it kind of, you know, it's like, it's definitely a give and take, but yeah, there's like, you can get innovative with a lot of different things.
So this kind of discussion is exactly what, why we're having the lunch bites and hoping to get from you all the questions that you have and the sharing. I think I'm going to turn it back over to Maggie to keep progressing on to the next topic.
Right. Just one more thing about the student expectations would be the chat section. You could probably turn the private chat off if you didn't want that happening during class time. And also you can turn the whole thing off if you don't want anyone chatting at all. Just making sure that students know what is and what isn't appropriate to put in that chat. Let's go to the next one. Yes. Yeah.
Turn that on the private chat, turning that off. Is that in your settings for the class?
Yeah. Yes. And you can do it in your meeting as well. Let me pull up chat real quick and walk you through those steps. So as a host, you have in-meeting settings for your chat, and it gives you the option to, it says participant can chat with no one, host only, everyone publicly, and then what I have set here is everyone publicly and privately. And you can do that within the meeting. So ways to access Zoom. Obviously, we're all here, so we know how to access it, but just knowing that there's multiple ways. I know that there's been some confusion on how to get in, how to make sure you're logged in, all those different things, where to set up meetings, where to edit meetings. For me, the easiest is going to be at the zoom.us website because you can have all of your settings right there. I'm going to go ahead and take you there, maybe. You guys see that? Yeah, okay. So this is zoom.us. This is my profile, which is what happens when you log in. And then when you go to meetings, this is where you're going to see a list of all of your meetings. and this is where you can schedule new meetings. If you already have a meeting open or set, you can open it and edit it from here. And then edit this meeting. This is why I like this, because it's very easy to read and understand for me, and it has all of the advanced settings and everything here. So what I have next on the PowerPoint is actually how to create a meeting, which a lot of people have already done. So this may be old news to you, but I'm just going to show you some different things on how I would do it, or explain why things are done or what it looks like. Typical to give your meeting a topic, we would suggest the name of your course, or something that is easy for you to understand whenever you look at your list of meetings. I have a template because of Lunch Bytes. Not everyone's going to see this use a template thing unless you've created a template. This section right here is the when and where. When you're creating a course or a meeting for your course, for your class, you have the recurring option, which is going to, if you have it set to, let's say your class is Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 9 to 10, and you want to set that and have it recurring every Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it's going to set up a meeting for each Monday, and it's going to be a meeting in your meeting list. It's still going to use the same exact join link, but it's going to be a different meeting in your list of meetings. So if I go back over here to my meetings list, you'll see my Tech Talks. These are all the same meeting link or join link, meeting code, but it shows me I have 3 more May Tech Talks in my list of meetings. After one of those, like yesterday, I had my very first one on May 5th. When that was over, that meeting link went away from this list. Or not the meeting link, just the name in here. Okay, so now I only have the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th on there. So really that's what setting up a recurring with fixed dates and times is going to do for you. It's going to show you those in your meeting list. If you do a recurring with no fixed time, this is going to leave this meeting open for you to use, and it will only have one listing in your list of meetings. So if I have, it doesn't matter what it's for, if I'm going to do it for my intro to computer concepts, I can just name it Intro to Computer Concepts, and I can use that for, if I have 3 sections of it, I can use it for all 3 sections if I want to. It just will only show up one time in my meeting list. Now, the confusion between those two is always, can I only go into that meeting that's fixed time during the time that it's set? So if it's from 9 to 10, can I only use that link during 9 to 10? No, you can use it whenever. You can go in that meeting whenever. It's just that is a list. It's just set in the list that way. It's not set during a fixed time for meeting. That's a confusing piece. So both of them can be used whenever you want. This one's only going to show up once. The no fixed time is only going to show up once in your list. The fixed time with the recurring every Monday or every Wednesday or whatever you choose is going to show however many times you have it set to recur. Any questions about that before I move on? That was a lot of information. No? You can have a meeting password. I have never done that, and it's up to you. It's a personal preference. Let's move on down to the meeting options. This is going to be the different, let me make sure, yes. On my slideshow for PowerPoint, in PowerPoint, I've got next talking about the different layouts. So we have your office hours, you've got your class time, you might have some one-on-one times that you need to meet with students. For, let's say, office hours, you're going to have the ability to have a waiting room where the students come in and they're going to, let me hop back over here. Of course, the way I have it set up doesn't have, Marie and I just played with this earlier today, and so I can't remember where I sat the pictures. Well, we'll just talk about these before we move on to the pictures. Enable with join before host allows the students to come into your meeting before you're there. So students can be in there talking to each other, whatever, before you're there. If you don't like that, you're going to uncheck that box. So students cannot come into your classroom until you are in the classroom. Just like unlocking your door and going in, that's kind of what this does. Enabling the waiting room means you're going to allow them to come in whenever you admit them to the room. So they will not even be in the room until you allow them to come in. So if you want to allow 3 people in and the rest of them are waiting, that's what the waiting room is going to be. Or if you're just wanting to make sure you know who you're allowing. This is kind of a security thing too. That way you know who's coming into the room. Let's see. Mute participants upon entry. I always check that just because you never know which you might hear when they come in. Breakout room pre-assigned online, only authenticated users can join. Those are things that we can talk about in a later one. Record the meeting automatically. If you're wanting to record your class sessions every single time you have one, I would definitely check this so you don't forget. I think we've done that before in one of our previous trainings where we forgot to click record. So this is a nice thing to have, and you don't have to worry about it. The second you start the meeting, it's going to start recording. And we can teach you how to edit those recordings in a different session. Okay? So those are those basics about creating a meeting, and then you would click save, and it would create that meeting. Okay. Let me see if this is how you, oh, do I hear somebody? Don, did you have a question? No? This is how it looks in the software. I can't obviously do it right now because we're in Zoom, so I did a little recording. This is what it would look like if you created a meeting in the Zoom software. So it's a little bit different, not as much to look at. You still have these advanced options for how to join and what the students can do. We've got the recurring, the date time. This is, if you clicked recurring, you still choose no fixed time if you would want. But that's what that looks like in the software compared to what we just did in the zoom.us. Okay. Any questions?
I will just insert that Maggie shared that zoom.us is her favorite way to monitor meetings and create them. My favorite way is through the software. I just find it to be easier and faster. So it is just a personal preference.
Yeah. Definitely. That's what I try to keep saying, like, this is what I would do. This is not how you have to do it. And in this situation, it's easier for me to show in zoom.us because I can't necessarily show you in the software right now. All right, so the list of meetings I already showed you in zoom.us. This is what it looks like on the software. Just go to meetings. This is your list of current meetings that you have. You can delete them from here. You can schedule them from here. Start them. Show the meeting invitation, which is going to show you your join link. It also shows you the meeting ID. All of this is from the software, which is all of the same information that I showed you, just in a different way. from zoom.us. Okay. So we threw something at you guys in March, and we added a Zoom synchronous class page to the on-campus classes. And does anybody, I don't know if I want to go through all of this if everyone's already done this. Marie, do I need to go through this, how to add it to the myNeosho page if everyone's already done it?
Let's just ask our attendees today.
Okay.
Anyone find it helpful to see the steps to, once you've created your meeting in Zoom, to then code this page on myNeosho? Or are you all comfortable with those steps? You can unmute or use the chat, or you can use the reaction with the thumbs up if you're comfortable. Just give us some feedback so we know how to better help you. I'm seeing some thumbs up,
Yeah.
Maggie.
Okay. If you do not know how, just let me know and I can help you one-on-one with that. Okay.
I do have one question. When we're finished with this meeting, will we be able to have this PowerPoint?
Yeah. Yep. I'll put it on that instructional support page under my TP. Mm-hmm. Good question.
The only thing that I would, one of the things that I kind of bit me in the butt when I was setting that up online was that when I created the page and I got everything set up, I didn't give my students, the students didn't inherently have access to that page that I created on myNeosho. So I had to go back through and set it up to give the students access so that they could actually see. Like I set up a Zoom office hours with the recurring meetings and all that stuff. And I was like, this is great. The students will be able to use it. But then like none of the students were like, we can't see it. And so even though when I created the page, I forgot to then go in and edit the details to say, yes, the students can actually access it. And so that was like, that's just, I don't know. I thought I'd share that in case anybody ran into that as well.
That's another reason why we find that role emulation tool so helpful, because you can then view the class as your students and maybe see, oh, I forgot something. But if you do forget, your students will let you know. So it's an easy thing to fix.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they do. All right, so starting a meeting, I already kind of showed you guys how to do that from zoom.us and from your software on your computer. Just a quick little video. Making sure we sign in is the most important thing. You don't have to, and I'll show you what you can do if you don't sign in. With a host key, you can get into your course. But best practices from my point of view is to make sure you're signed in either on zoom.us or your software. I'm always signed in to both of them all the time. So I didn't notice this as a problem until I started getting some feedback. If you're not signed in, you cannot be the host of your meeting. So if you click on your Zoom page and it takes you to your Zoom meeting, if you're not logged in, it's going to prompt you for your name, or if your name is already saved in there from going there before, it's going to just put you in the meeting as a participant but not as the host. So you will have to claim the host, and you'll have to have the host key to be able to do that. So once you're in there, you can go in the meeting, you can go into the participants and you can click down on the three dots and click claim host. When you do that, you'll get this little screen that says enter host key to claim host. The host key is yours only, and it's like a password. You can get it from zoom.us, and I will show you. Maybe.
Maggie, while you're doing that, I do just want to clarify. You noticed in that screenshot there was a field to enter the 6-digit host key, but underneath that there is a link that allows you to sign in with your Zoom credentials. So you can choose to use the host key, or you can choose to click that sign in, and that's just your Zoom credentials. So either way on that.
Yes. If you do want to use your host key, it's under profile on zoom.us, and it's down here at the bottom. They assign you a host key automatically, but you can edit that and change it to whatever you would remember, just like a pen. So that way, if you don't want to have to sign in and you want to just use your host key, you can. This is something that is very important in the sense that you won't be able to have any controls unless you are the host of your meeting. So you need to be signed in, or you need to be able to have a host key in order to be the host of your meeting and make it run properly, share your screen, and all that. Any questions about that? Barb?
If you're signing into a meeting and the host has not taken these steps, because I know we had another group that was trying to do a Zoom meeting, and it just said you have to wait for the host to sign in, but then they apparently never did. Would that be what causes that?
So you were sitting in a waiting room waiting for a host to sign in? Is that what you're talking about? Or were you in the meeting?
I was signing into a meeting, and it's like, since we've done this on myNeosho before, it went through the first couple of steps, but once you said something about entering the meeting, it said something like waiting for host to enable, and then that just sat there, and it never got, there wasn't a way to get into the meeting. Is that because the host or somebody never claimed to be the host or didn't sign in, or?
It could have been any of those things. The meetings, it sounds like the meeting was set for in a waiting rooms, or that the host said unchecked enable before host, and the host may have even been waiting as well and didn't realize that they were the host and that they didn't sign in first or go the right route. Right, Marie? Is that what you think? There's a couple different things that could have.
Yes, it sounds to me like the host, that meeting was set up with the waiting room and not the join before host option, and that whoever was the host never claimed the host spot. So likely, and Maggie, I don't think we have tested this, but if the meeting is set up where the waiting room is enabled, then I doubt that you would be able to get in to this point to claim the host, the screenshots that you're seeing right now.
Which goes back to the best practices. You should be logged in.
Yeah.
So, yep. Barb?
Yeah, I had the experience on Tuesday that during class Zoom reset for whatever reason, and I got the little box with the circle, and then it reset pretty quickly, and then the students appeared, and then they were laughing because it had assigned the host to one of the students.
Interesting.
Yeah, so just a
When
comment.
When the host leaves the meeting, Zoom will then assign the host responsibilities to someone else. So that is exactly what happened. So then in that case, you go to the participants and you can claim the host back. You can remove their host permissions, or you can have them go and make you the host again.
Okay, yeah,
By
that makes
using
sense.
this right here, the claim host, that should be how you should get it back. So yeah, we did not test the waiting room or making the students wait until the host enters. So if you have that set, if you have those settings, then you definitely need to be signed in before going to your meeting. Beginning of the meeting, you need to make sure you have your audio and video on. And so this is just a little quick video of what it looks like. Silly, gotta love recording yourself. How to change your virtual background if that's something you can do or are capable of doing with your computer. My favorite is Little Library in a Cabin. And then when everybody comes in, you're ready to talk, make sure you unmute yourself. I know we've all done it where we've all started talking and we weren't actually unmuted. So we need to make sure those are very important things. Before, do we have a question before I move on?
Yeah, on that virtual background that you just showed, where was that setting? Was that on the camera or in the Zoom?
The virtual background, let's go back. Oops. So you're going to go down to the next to the start video section, and it has the up caret.
Okay, yeah. Oh,
And
video settings. I see.
And then choose.
So
If you do not have the virtual background option, you may be prompted to either update your Zoom software or to download the virtual background. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but there's a quick, do you want to download this so that you can utilize a virtual background when you do not have a green screen. So the first time you're playing with that, you might be prompted to download something. Maggie, before we move on, there is a comment about host and co-host. Peggy has shared a tip in the chat where when their students are presenting, they make the student a co-host so that the student has some extra capabilities in the meeting. And then after that student is done, they reclaim that and they can make the next student a co-host. So that's a tip. Peggy, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, but you can all see that in the chat also from Peggy.
Nothing else, Peggy?
Nope, I just found the co-host works better than actually making them the host because they get all nervous about how to, then they only have the ability to make them not host. So if you make them co-host, you always have the ability to switch around the host. If you make them host, they have to then know how to do it and they get all nervous and sometimes can't make it happen. So it's better to do co-host if you're going to be sharing the screen with your student, or your students are going to be sharing their screens a lot, because you can still do the reclaiming and then the assigning again.
Okay, cool. Great. The next thing on the list is entrance settings, which we kind of talked about that a little bit, but this is where I have the screenshots that Marie and I worked on this morning with the waiting room. I think the waiting room idea would be a good for office hours. So when the students come in and they start piling up, you can send a message, and you want to make sure you wait until you see a couple students in there, because we found out that you only see what messages are sent after you've joined. So this is an example of what I sent before Marie came in. So I sent the I'm meeting with another student. I'll be with you as soon as possible. But over on the right side of Marie's screen, she came in after that, and she only saw the list of people that I was going to get to next. So you don't have to use the message feature, but it's an awesome thing to have with the waiting room option for an office hours situation. Like, this is what, oh, here's another screenshot. This is what they see on their phone. So if your students are using their phone and they're in the waiting room, they'll see that there's a little message. You open up that message. And we came up with the idea that maybe if you're wanting to use it like an order kind of situation, you can put a number next to whoever comes in, like whatever order they come in. And then like at the bottom, I said 3 is next, and say 4 or whatever. So as people are coming in, they know what number they are. That's something that we just played around with that we thought would work for office hours. So that way you have one link and you can meet with the student, and then the next person can meet with you, and they can just be waiting in the waiting room, just kind of like they're waiting in a waiting room for you to come out of your office. Host first and no host, we already kind of talked about that. One of the things about host first is just making sure that you're in the room before class starts, so if they have any questions or anything, they can ask. No host could be used for groups, so if you want to have that open and let the students know that, yes, our class is from 9 to 10, but your group meets from 10:30 to 11. You can go to this link and you can meet with your group. Nobody will be a host, but they can still meet. And then we have the recording. And like I just talked about earlier, just making sure if you want to record the whole thing, you can just do it from the settings. If you want to record just a certain section, just your lecture part, you can record just certain pieces as well. Anybody have any questions about that? Nope. We've already talked a little bit about manage participants. Yep.
The record option, that's in the Zoom settings, you said?
If you want to have it set up to record from the start of your meeting, you can have it do that. You can set that in your meeting settings, or when you're in the meeting, you can click record. There's going to be a record button down on your host panel.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So mute and unmute. You've got the options to mute the whole. I've got one person in my participants option here, but you can mute all or unmute all. You've got all of the different options for your participants. You can take the option to unmute themselves away. That's probably more for the younger Zoom users. You can also have them rename themselves or take that option away. If I can pause this. This is what you should see in your participants for yourself. You can unmute yourself or mute yourself, and then you can rename yourself or edit your profile picture. So this is what your students will see as well, as long as you've given them that option. So if you've taken away the mute or unmute, they're not going to see this. If you've taken away the option to rename themselves, they're not going to see this. Okay? Any questions about that? Now this is what you would see for your student. You've got all of these different options. You can chat individually with your student. That's what this part is, that top one is. You can stop their video. So if, let's say a student had a crying baby come in and they didn't have time to turn off their screen and you want to do that for them, you can do that for them. I don't know of any other reason, unless there's something inappropriate happening, that you would need to change or stop video. You can make them host, make co-host, just like Peggy was talking about. You can allow them to record. You can assign them to type closed captioning. That's something we can talk about in our next session. You can rename them yourself if you know them as something else or whatever, or they've named themselves something inappropriate, you can rename them. You can also put them in the waiting room from here. So if you've decided that you need them to go away for even a project or, something that's fun in the classroom, like, when you've asked students to leave the room because you're going to do something fun or whatever. This is just like asking them to leave the classroom, but they're going to be allowed to come back in. Now remove is going to remove them from the meeting, and they will not be allowed to come back in until you completely close out of the meeting and restart the meeting. So the remove is kicking them out and locking the door. Okay. Then I think that's all I talked about there. Any questions about that part? Nope. Okay. Make sure I'm looking at my information here. I want to go back. Did I talk about lock? I don't think I did. Marie, did we talk about locking?
We have not talked about locking the meeting yet, no.
Okay. I believe it was on another slide, maybe, and I just missed it. So if you lock the meeting, it's just going to take away the opportunity for anyone else to join. So even if you set your meeting for a password with a password, they can't even come in with a password. It's just going to lock it down so no one else can join. So if you've got it set to no waiting room, you just have it set for, let's even say students have to wait until the host is in the room. The second you're done allowing people to come in, let's say you have a 9:05 cutoff, no one else can join after 9:05, you can lock that room. Okay. Any questions about that? Okay, I have the next thing is tips and tricks from anyone that is in this meeting right now that might have tips and tricks about the things that we talked about here. Anybody? This is also kind of a time for questions and
we've already shared several tips and tricks throughout, but somebody may have something else that's come to mind.
Yeah.
I end up recording my meetings to the cloud. It seems to be a lot easier than recording to your hard drive. And you get a link pretty quickly in your email that you can then post. And it even comes with a password for your students now. So not everyone can access your class recording. That's been real helpful. I've had a lot of students who can't come at our original time because of other commitments or kids or something like that. So they can still see what we discussed and what's up in the week ahead with those recordings.
That's really good news, Kevin, because I was wondering how that would work, and that would also give us something to post to myNeosho in your class if you wanted to post that link.
Yeah, I just create a basic assignment and make it not graded, and then just put the link in that comes in my email. And it goes out to a page that kind of looks like YouTube, but they can watch the recording and maximize it and so forth.
Perfect. It takes that step of adding it to YouTube and all that out of it. That's cool.
Right.
Kevin, I remember researching that, but I don't remember the parameters. Have you encountered any space issues with storage of new videos yet? And do you know?
Not at all. And I've uploaded a video. It takes it a little longer for it to come in your email with the link because I guess it's processing. But I've recorded over an hour in a meeting while we were reviewing for a test and managed to get that recording uploaded.
I also seem to remember, I believe there's an overall cap on how much space you have in the cloud. And I think to allow instructors to continue to record meetings, they also start automatically deleting those after a certain point. Do you know? I can't remember the parameters on that.
I don't remember seeing that, but it's not happened to me yet. I would probably just delete these recordings after the semester's over.
So that would I just say that because if you do intend to keep your videos long-term, you might need to play them in Camtasia and record them or do something else with them. long term, but I'm glad to hear that it works very well when you do it to the cloud.
Once you stick it up in the cloud, can you actually just download the file from the cloud again? Or is it, I mean, do you have that option?
It'll send you 2 links in the email. One is to download as an MP4. The other is just a link to share with your class.
So you would just...
If you click the first link, you have a whole bunch of different options to add things and edit and download.
You would just want to make sure to pull down that MP4 file, and then you could refer back to that at any point in the future.
Correct, yep.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Anything else? No? Okay.
I guess I'm just interested in the whole recording and the process that Kevin's talking about. But I mean, I assume that if I just try it a couple of times, I'll have more definite questions for like a future session.
Yeah, Andrew, when you click record in your Zoom meeting, it'll give you a little option there at the bottom, whether you want to record to your hard drive or record to the cloud. So I just have picked record to cloud.
Patty has asked a question in the chat about upgrading the account to get longer time. Patty, I think you're asking about the storage capabilities. I believe they're all the same for licensed pro users. So I don't know that that's something that we can actually increase the amount of space that we have in the Zoom cloud, or the amount of time before Zoom starts automatically deleting those. I think those are just set numbers. Oh, if you don't have a pro account, you just request that and we will make you a pro account. So I will go in and make your account a pro account.
Marie, this is Dawn. I got a pro account this semester because of the COVID-19. Will that continue in the future, or was that just a one-time because of the COVID-19?
I believe we have a 3-year contract with Zoom with this number of pro hosts. Is that correct, Sarah? 3 years. So for 3 years, you have a pro account. And then we will likely assess how many people are using it and want to continue before we make a decision for the future.
Okay.
On the account activation, it gives you options to go Google, Facebook, or password. Are there advantages or disadvantages, or to which of those you select?
I personally always set a password for each thing that I am enrolling in. Maggie, I don't know if you have different advice on that.
That's what I do. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Marie, I'm looking at the cloud recording storage capacity on the Zoom Help Center, and it's showing that the Pro has got 1 gigabyte for a Pro user, for Pro and then Pro. And then if it says plan type education, and then free account capacity is 0.5 gig for the Pro user. But I guess maybe I'm not seeing the one where it's, I guess that's confusing. Because if the plan type is Pro, I assume that you're paying for it. And it says free account capacity next to it. It says 1 gig per Pro user. So, well, I don't know. I thought I had helpful information. Maybe not. Never mind.
We are an education account, but we are paid. So I think you would follow the Pro. So it sounds like 1 gigabyte of storage.
It says that they'll send you an email when your usage is 80% of the subscribed storage limit. So you should get an email alert when you're getting close to whenever they'll have to delete or whatever, whenever you're coming full. 80%, you'll get an email.
That mean every year they just renew the 1 gigabyte?
I would anticipate that to be an inclusive 1 gigabyte that doesn't renew, but you can delete old videos perhaps. I've not actually recorded to the cloud. So Kevin, can you go in and delete old videos if you're getting close? Like if you get that email, Have you tried to manage that yet? You're muted, Kevin.
I was trying to hit my space bar. I have not done that yet. I've seen a bunch of options on the link page where you get your link for the recordings. I know there's a download option because I had to download and edit a video and then re-upload it to YouTube. I accidentally recorded a private conversation with a student, which would not have been good to post, so I had to remove that out. But I think there are lots of other controls. I just have not explored them, and I have not yet gotten any notification that I'm reaching the maximum. So I'll look for that as I continue to upload.
Well, I am cognizant that we are drawing close to the 1 o'clock time. I want to thank everyone for attending again. Hopefully you picked up on something new that you didn't already know, and that's the whole purpose of the Lunch Bites. We will be doing another Lunch Bites, a Zoom for the classroom part 2 in 2 weeks from today. I believe that date is the 20th. And the following Wednesday, we will be having another Lunch Bites on the concourse syllabus system. So those are things, and Maggie will be emailing that information out to you. I know Maggie and I can stay on and answer individual questions if you still have them, but we just want to thank you again for coming today, and we hope to see you at the next one.